Hi everyone, my name's David. I'm here to talk about how to stand out as an entry-level analyst from a mid-levels perspective. So, I'm not a senior, I'm not a lead, I'm nothing like that, but I guess a few years back, I was entry level as an analyst, and I had a pretty tough time learning some of the things that I felt were actually important about doing well in roles like this, or learning some of the caveats in the space. So I kind of wanted to take some time to talk about that. What I'll be doing in this is talking about the timeline, my experience of going from being an entry level analyst to being a mid level analyst. I'll talk about the field a bit. I will talk about the hiring environment, to kind of talk about the aspects of if you're trying to get a job as an entry level analyst, I'm going to talk about that a little bit here, about why I think that's so tough right now, besides the general macroeconomic context. And then I will be covering some aspects that I think will be important for somebody who's looking to get a job or already has that first job or second job or whatever to, I guess, really shine in that role. From my perspective, having gone through that over the last couple of years. And then we'll just open it up to Q&A. So this presentation is going to be pretty short. I think the meat of the time we have here is going to be focused on the Q&A. Questions don't have to be limited to this, and I can always go back in the slide if you want to reference it. But yeah, we'll be doing the Q&A at the end there. Okay, so my experience, just to help drive that picture there, is so in 2020, I graduated. I had a degree in business analytics. I'm going to be honest, didn't really cover a whole lot. We didn't cover some of the most important aspects of being an analyst that I'll get into later in the talk. And then I got a contract hire at Amazon. I felt pretty lucky there. So I graduated, had a weekend, and then I started on Monday. And then over the course of that 6 months, a previous internship reached out to me. So, I'm kind of a dreaded job hopper. I left Amazon. I went to work at that internship because they offered me a full-time role, right? At Amazon, I was earning less than I was earning at the pizza place I was working at prior. So needed to pay my bills, left. Then I came back and I got hired internal, and I was a reporting analyst there. And so over the next amount of time, I stayed in that role, and my big thing was essentially building business reviews. So I got to work with a lot of pretty high level people at Amazon in the section that I was in, and the department that I was in, was primarily focused on, you order a package, gets to your door in 2 days. How does that happen? Who do we need to hire? Where do we need to hire people? How much money do we have to hire people from? So there's a lot of analytics poured into that kind of effort. So it was a fun playground for me to build and upskill myself. Definitely big takeaways from this period. I'm about a year and some change removed from getting my first job. This was the point where all of my work ended up, if I'm in Excel, I'm not typing formulas anymore. I'm using Power Query. If I'm manipulating the data for a visualization, I'm doing that in using SQL. So then I guess they thought I did a good job. So I got a promotion, became an L5 business analyst too. So job title kind of matched what I was hoping to be doing. Ended up going into the cloud division, AWS, and did a lot of the same things there. My entire team essentially transferred, and we rebuilt what we built for the 2-day shipping guys for the cloud people. And then, that was kind of a rocky year. I'm not going to lie. It was a lot of work, a lot of, I had a lot of opportunity to talk to and grow and talk to directors. But that meant that I'm on the West Coast. I'm receiving phone calls at 7 a.m. or earlier from directors who really need a piece of data or something at 9 or 8. And I didn't know how to set those boundaries as an entry level person. So I took the voluntary severance they offered, spend a couple of spend a couple months just playing video games essentially. And then after that, the remainder of my 2023, I applied to hundreds of jobs. So I feel the pain there that people are experiencing in this field. And I decided I couldn't find a job, so I made an LLC and I freelanced. Cool thing about that is that I got to, from that entry level, sitting in a corporate environment, I got to really see how people really value the data that they're receiving and in what ways. So happy to talk more about that later. But there's a lot of aspects of running your own business that is really taxing when you've want to still upskill yourself. So I ended up eventually getting a job. I work at a consulting agency now, so they have me embedded at Microsoft as a vendor, and I'm working on a master's as well. So that's going to be kind of a through point throughout this talk is just as you're working on your analytics skill set, you should always be looking for opportunities to keep learning, even if that might mean jumping into new environments. Okay, enough about myself. So why was I telling you all this? I wanted to show you the experience that I had that I think makes me a mid-level analyst, not a senior, not an entry anymore, but a mid-level. I also wanted to show that I've experienced the hiring woes of 2023 as well. It's not all, rosy picture, sunny skies. And I've had the opportunity to see what a lot of different people want from their analysts. I've joined a lot of teams while I was either consulting or transferring between different departments at Amazon or going back to work at my old internship, where I've seen how people react when data is presented well and when it's presented not well in front of a lot of different people. Okay, so yeah, why finding a job sucks in analytics. The funnel is a lot like a software engineering funnel. You have a lot of people who got really interested in the field, which is awesome. I love that people love this field, and I want more people to love it as much as I do. The challenge with that is that a lot of the work that's required to get these tasks done require very niche subsets of skills in the data sphere, right? But employers maybe don't know exactly what they want when they're posting that up. So, maybe you're just looking at the blue line, maybe you're a business analyst, right? Maybe you have a good idea of how to make a document or a report that lets people understand information across a business, right? You're really working in that enterprise environment, but they want someone to build like an algorithm to predict, seasonal changes in their sales or hiring or something. They need a data scientist, but they don't know how to ask for that. So that's changing a little bit now, but that is one of the big causes of hiring woes. And I think one of a really good way to set yourself apart is to, amongst all of these, learn which one you either are or really want to to kind of head towards, and start tailoring your resume towards that and start looking for the keywords that fit inside those domains. So then when you find a job rec that is called data analyst, but it really fits more of like a technical project manager, if that's what you want to do, you know that that's one that you should go for. That's one that you should apply for. Um, Last bit that I want to cover here is that analytics is for sure a trade, not a domain. This is something that gets discussed in a lot of little analytics communities that I like to be in. Um, you don't learn any domain skills about what your numbers are actually doing in school or working on projects for the most part, because people are highly focused on getting those technical skills, and they ought to be, because that's really important to actually land the role. But it's really hard to get a callback for a job if you, for example, if you're going into like recruiting or something, and you can't talk through like a recruiting funnel, right? From like resume reviews and like phone screens and all of that. So figuring out what industry you want to be in and then building projects around that domain. So you get your technical skills leveled up, but then you get to learn a little bit more about that specific subset of of like an industry that you want to enter with this skill set. That would be really, really big. And from what I hear, anecdotally, that's a big reason why people don't get callbacks when they do get interviews. Okay, jumping into kind of past let's say you have the job, you're starting to work, and there's a lot going on. There's a lot of people that you could talk to or learn from, and you want to just be proficient in your job. There's three just boilerplate. Just get really good at these three things. First is just be able to hop into Excel. I know that it's a can be considered a low level tool when you're looking at things, but it's just a very powerful tool. And learn Power Query inside of it. It's like a visual SQL, so you're able to kind of like mess around with columns and data and join information. It's a very fast way to make a tool that people in your organization they'll think you're like a wizard when you make them, because they'll be used to people sending very bloated reports that you're calculating formulas in every single cell. Do it in Power Query. set up like a little design piece to explain, how they can use it. And then that will automate so much of the work that you're doing right now at a low enough level that most people who are around you in your team or field can fix, right? You don't want to go so high tech that nobody can touch it. Then that would be pretty useless for the business at the end of the day. Next bit is learn how to wrangle the data, wrangle or manipulate the data. So get good at SQL. I People don't like leak code, but I really do recommend the SQL top 50 on leak code. It helps kind of if you're not super proficient at it, it helps kind of like throw you in and just understand some of the challenges or pitfalls that you can run into when querying for information. And so if you're the kind of person that learns that those pitfalls and then you move forward and you're able to bring that into work, people are going to call on you over and over again because your data is going to not get as messed up every time.
Just so
Last,
everyone's on the same.
oh,
Just so everyone's on the same page. What is SQL?
SQL, it's I don't know what it stands for, but you pull information. So it's like a programming language or a querying language. Sometimes people disagree on that, but it lets you like if there's a large lake of information, structured query language. Thank you. It lets you pull a lot of information from a central base and manipulate that information. So like if you're pulling sales data on like a product, right? Like on fruit, you can select for just looking at bananas or something like that. And that way you're only pulling very specific information you need. And that will make things run faster. It'll make things more tidy because you don't have to go and clean lots of data over and over again. And people really like that because they'll be able to see that in the report when they go to visualize it. And so learning a good visualization tool to actually dump those queries into like Power BI, Looker Studio, or Tableau will be really important. Did that
Yep.
help answer the
Thank you.
question?
That's very helpful.
Cool. Let's see. Yeah, key soft skills for an entry level analyst. Be a sponge, as in like, it's you gotta like it is one of those fields where you do just have to keep learning, right? So I'm going back to school, even though I feel pretty proficient in the role that I can do now, just because I know that the field's going to keep evolving, and you got to make sure you're staying competitive. When you're in an industry and you actually have that job, not only can you build out your technical skills, but you can build out your domain skills. So, no longer will you be someone with like a lot of technical skills, but you're not getting the job because you don't know like banana sales in and out, and so Chiquita Bananas isn't giving you a call back. You'll be able to build up knowledge in that domain. So, for example, for me, I have a pretty good domain expertise in recruiting at this point, and then through freelancing, I got a lot of information about marketing or like web analytics for like startups, like software as a service kind of thing. Um, Recognize that not everyone has the right answer. So a lot of ways that people are doing things. If you be a sponge, you learn a lot of stuff and then you learn how to apply those things. If you're able to implement a faster solution that's better, that isn't like way too high order, that nobody can fix it other than you, people are going to really, really like you because you're going to take what is kind of a janky process that is getting, through the door and keeping the lights on. Um, you're going to make that better and you're going to make it run quicker and you're going to allow people to reach for, I guess, like an operational excellence. And then the last bit here is you, as an analyst, you're there to make your manager look better by making their manager look better. So as an analyst, have a great reputation and working relationship with your skip level. So whether that's, you're on a team, you have a manager, and then you have a senior manager or something like that. Um, just get in their good graces, learn to work with them because when you're doing analytics work, all of your work goes to the top very quickly. So, whatever visuals you're producing, those will be shown by a director. So if you know what those people really want, you'll be able to help them out a lot more effectively. And then that will kind of come down. Your manager will get the kudos, you'll get the kudos, and then everyone will prosper, hopefully. Okay, we're almost done here. So I wanted to share just some cheat sheet design stuff that I really like. Going to coolers.co for palettes is really good. You can just keep pressing spacebar and it'll give you a bunch of palettes. You can lock the colors and then it'll keep giving you colors that work well with that locked color so you can build out a nice palette for yourself. David Mathlogic. I'll send the link to this out. Nobody makes visuals that are beneficial for people who are colorblind. Nobody uses icons properly. Nobody uses proper colors that can be seen by people across all spectrums of vision. So if you're able to do that, that's a huge selling point, even though maybe it doesn't seem super important as like showing like the sales or something right away. Just having that in your back pocket, and oh, we're totally compliant there, no sweat, right? That's like people will view you as somebody who, dots all their I's and crosses all their T's. And then just being good at separating out your visuals. So a bento box design is really popular right now. If you pull down your iPhone right now and open that settings page where you have your, all of your little settings where you can mute and cancel the rotation, that's a bento box format. So putting your visuals in boxes like this is really good. Rounding out the edges of those boxes using good color palettes, and then taking the definitions that you're looking at and finding a nice icon pack would be just above the board. You'd be like 95th percentile data analyst dashboard designer if you did this. And it really helps boost the clarity of your reports. And most people are really scared of data. Not like somebody who's an analyst who has to go and dig through it and finds out how messy it is. You can clean it up and make it look really nice. And the more people who use your work, the better that's going to look for you. Um, Good portfolio projects to practice this. Google BigQuery is the sandbox version. You can get a lot of free data there, and you can use Google's dashboard software Looker, and you can make a lot of really great portfolio projects. It'll show that you know how to use SQL. It'll show that you're interested in the space because it's using a lot of tools that show an entire stack using the Google stack of tools. And you can show off your ability to design visuals. Spending a lot of time on Kaggle is really great. Kaggle has a lot of data sets that are uploaded. You can sort by popularity. You can see how other people analyze it, and they have competitions you can enter. Finally, if you need resume help, the Atriarch Resume Review Discord channel is really, really good. Although I don't know if I should say it that much because I feel like I post a lot in it, so maybe I'm just glazing myself. But no, Iron, he's here. Iron does really, really good stuff in there. Jordung as well, and plenty of other people. There's just a lot of really, really great advice that gets thrown around in there. And that is the presentation. I know I went a little over there, so sorry about that. I think we're gonna open it up to Q&A now.
Yep, that's right. If anyone has any questions, feel free to ask it in the chat or raise your hand, and I will bring you up to speak. If you have questions about the presentation, about David, about his job, anything like that, feel free to ask those. Starting off here, why did you decide to go into data science or data consultancy?
So for the consultancy bit that I'm at now, let's see, yeah. So for this bit, honestly, the building out an LLC sucks. To be honest, especially when it's like the easiest way to get started is that it's like your work and it's just like I just am the engine for that. But then I hated doing all the admin and the marketing for it to get new clients. So being in an agency lets me uh, do a lot of stuff with a lot of people still without having to worry about all that. All I've got to do is like submit a time card. So yeah, that's why went down that route. As far as like getting into the industry in the first place, I've always just kind of been like I make my Christmas. I think I mentioned to you earlier. I make my like Christmas lists in Excel ever since I was like 6 or 7 or 8 or whatever. Not six, like yeah, like 9 or probably something. But anyways, I've just always been like super digging into stuff to an insane degree. So it's nice to get paid to do that.
All right. J Squared asks, is switching between data analyst and software data engineer roles a good idea? I remember hearing that once you switch to analyst roles, it's hard to get back into engineering roles.
Uh, so really quick there, are you a software engineer or a data engineer now?
I don't, maybe, but I think that this is they do cybercrime, so I don't think so. They can say for themselves then. Hoping to be
You're
one, they say.
hoping to be one. Gotcha. So the way that the industry is finally starting to define these terms, it's still kind of nebulous. Uh, data analyst, it's a good data analyst, business analyst is a really great track to stay on if you want to become like a project manager or go into like a director role where you're focusing on a lot of reporting. If you want to stay more technical and you want to go down that like data engineer, software engineer route and maybe explore some tougher concepts, I would look at exploring what a data scientist or an ML engineer or even an analytics engineer does. Analytics engineer is super new as far as like being used regularly. It's kind of you're the data guy who presents information like a data analyst or business analyst, but you also do engineering. So I would take a look at some material around analytics engineer and see if that lets you spend some time learning before deciding which one you want to niche into. Of course.
Thank you. Sheik asks, what would you recommend as a way to get a foot in the door if you don't have a traditional analyst/CS background? I have a BS in physics and I want to pivot to an analyst consultant role with an agency as well.
Totally. Yeah, that's a great point. So the way that the industry has kind of developed before there were ever any degrees in something specific to analytics was, I'm an HR rep and we have to make these reports and nobody really knows the software that well. So I went and learned the software. And so I kind of became the it person for the reporting, and they needed me so much to just do that and not do the other stuff that I was hired for that they just turned me into an analyst. So the best approach, if you're not somebody who's going down a traditional route of getting a degree in a specific field and then getting a job in that specific field, is to get a supplemental role that's connected. So like maybe like internal, right? So like if you're in I don't know exactly for physics. I'm going to use a recruiter example. If you're a recruiter, getting a recruiting position that's maybe a little bit closer to the inward operations end, right? Maybe you're not doing exactly all of the calls and the resume screens, but you're working a little bit closer with like project or team managers who are working on initiatives. Um, and then you start just taking a little bit more of that data analytics work over and over again until they don't need you to do the other stuff anymore. That's what I would recommend. I'm sure there's some analog version of that for physics.
As I'm not gonna try. Asks, are you juggling both full-time work and getting a master's? If so, how is the workload and would you recommend it? Great job, by the way.
Oh, thank you. I am doing both. I think coming off of freelancing, it feels better, but it is still a lot of work. So, it's a traditional 9 to 5 / 8 to 5. I would say I wasn't going to do it until I got a remote offer and I didn't have to do my marketing and admin anymore. So, my education is remote and my work is remote. So it's just on me to figure out how I'm getting out of the house and be really good at time management. I would recommend it though. I think that if you're somebody who is constantly picking up projects and is accidentally always doing a little bit too much, I think that it's a nice, very full workload for you to do without having the ability to pick up more stuff and stress yourself out. I think you can do it.
Mine is an interesting question here. I noticed in sports media, they're very quick to say things like this has been only the third time in history someone has dunked three balls, gotten a flagrant, and eaten a fish taco in the same game. When does data become trivia for you specifically?
That's good. Yeah, so it's kind of like with anything, right? So it's like if you're marketing something, you're always marketing something, right? When you're in an interview, you're marketing yourself, or when you're, presenting a presentation, you're marketing something out of it. So if you're able to have like some fun tidbit that gets people to say like, "Oh, nice, this isn't like dorky STEM lord shit that I should turn my brain off for." Um, this is going to be interesting, right? They're willing to spend the time to speak with me on terms that I like. That's why people do it. I like it. I like the data becomes trivia bit. I think that it helps people, a certain amount of that funnel will look closer, which is good.
Rhoda Mag asks, is it possible to land a business analyst position with just Excel experience? I'm currently in FP&A, and you have to say what that means to me. Interested in switching to BA, uh, but don't want to be as technical as a data analyst. I find most positions require very technical skill sets. And do you know what both those acronyms are?
So BA, business analyst, FP&A, financial power world and acquisitions. I'm not sure.
Well, Fred can explain. Can you answer the question, or do you need more clarification?
Financial planning and analysis. That's a really good starting point to be at to switch to a BA. So looking at this image here, a business analyst is really just a data analyst who knows like deep understanding of Excel, some knowledge of SQL, and is good at presenting information or good at talking to people, right? You want to bring a business analyst along with you when you're a project manager and you're talking to the stakeholders, right? Whether that's a director or whoever, right? So you're already looking at an analytics field, which is great. So that's already kind of like a good mindset to that you're already in. I think that like business analyst, it's more of like a trade focused role, and it looks like you're doing something that's a little bit more squared down, that's targeting a specific thing. So I actually don't think that being a business analyst is out of reach for your current degree path. So I think that switching or just getting that experience or that job or whatever, I think either would work fine. I would just encourage you to yeah, pull a data set from Kaggle, uh, get that data into Excel, learn how to use Power Query pretty well, like learn how to make a tool where you can chuck the same report into it over and over again. I don't know if they give you data sets to work on uh, right now. Like, a standard template, maybe that updates monthly. If you can make like a little wizard in Power Query in Excel that will just fix it to the view that you want it to be at, that is like great. That's great. And then after that, do the SQL leak code top 50 for a little bit. Don't get discouraged. Use ChatGPT to make sure you understand the syntax. And then I think you're going to be in a good spot. I feel like you're in a great spot.
They ask again one more question. How did you end up choosing your role between business analytics and data science? I'm currently a second year data analyst, but have transitioned into a data engineering project. Still not sure which one I'm inclined to do more, so curious if you face the same circumstance.
Yeah, totally. So I absolutely face the same thing. I don't know how it would work for you specifically, but for me, I'm someone who just kind of keeps digging into something, and then it's really good for me to be an individual contributor because I have to finish it at some point, right? Otherwise, I'll just keep digging. I think that that could go either way for data engineering or machine learning or data science. It really depends on what you want to do. So a data scientist, in a lot of fields, you already have good experience here. You're gonna depending on the company, like you might be like a cool AI researcher if that's what you want to do, but a lot of times you might actually be fitting the role of a business analyst, doing a lot of reporting and maybe building models every so often, but more so doing a lot of data wrangling and presenting like a monthly business review or something like that. And then a data engineer is somebody who kind of gets to sit back a little bit and they're more of a gardener. They get to, raise all the crops and that people cut down for their data and then butcher in their computations later down the line. And that's really the pain point that you get into there. So it just depends on if you want to be stakeholder facing or if you want your customers to be other analysts. It just depends on what kind of people you like working with, I think.
Iron asks, how often do dataset analyses get peer reviewed? Is there some equivalent of getting published a la STEM fields? And I'm going to ask, have you ever, and if so, how often have you had peer reviewed data?
Uh, Nobody will ever peer review your data sets. It that's I okay, so this is something that plays into a really big issue that people experience in the data sphere, which is imposter syndrome. I think a lot of people who work in analytics experience imposter syndrome. If you're looking at just this grid right here, I can look at it and, if I see someone's an ML engineer, I'll be like, they're so much smarter than me. Why even bother? They're so much further ahead. If I present anything to them, or if I present, something to an analyst with 7 to 8 years experience, they're going to tear me a new one because it's going to be bad. So the data set analysis doesn't happen. Or I mean, you analyze the data, but nobody analyzes your analyzation or whatever. It moves too quick. So I think that really the equivalent is just being somebody who doesn't have their manager get caught out when something doesn't look right, right? You have to just quadruple check all of your work. So getting published, I think in this circumstance is just your manager coming back and saying, yeah, there's great feedback. They actually trusted the data. Because as soon as one thing's wrong, the call's over. Like you got to go rebuild it. You got to go make it look different.
If you're not willing to share, that's fine. But how often do you get customers who are like kind of fishing for one answer, you know? And you might say one thing to them that you don't know is true. They're saying, "Hey, can you like look at it again? Like, is there any way it could be different?" Or does that never happen?
Oh no, that happens all the time, right? So like, well, it's you get two camps of people. You get one camp of person being like, we're already pulling these. We don't really know why we're doing it, and can you just make that better? So, maybe they're going to like 10 dashboards across the company and they're putting all their filters on every week and they're doing that and it takes hours, right? And they just want you to build them a singular view. They don't really care about the output as long as it matches the other stuff. There's the other kind of person where when you talk to them, it's very clear that they have an initiative that's ongoing that they need to show proof of evidence of success for. And so if you're not able to do that, then the work that you're doing is not going to be beneficial to them, and you can get in some tricky situations. One time I fixed a report for somebody and I was like, no, 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 I fixed it. It looks great now. And I didn't realize because I was entry at the time, it was still in my first 6 months, that fixing it drove their like closeness to target from like 90% down to 10%. And so like I totally butchered that like I guess success story for them. So it's important to just be careful about how you present this information and not lie, right? But don't waste your time working on something that people don't want to have completed. At the same time, if you do see an error, you got to call it out.
Interesting. Quick and Smart asks, where do you recommend trying to get data science jobs? I've already applied to like 2 dozen places and I've had no responses, and LinkedIn is very bad, with like 100 applications within an hour of being posted. I've done five personal projects already, but I haven't had an internship/work experience, and I feel like that automatically throws a resume out of the candidates pile. Sorry, something like this, but not, no, it doesn't like this been asked already.
Yeah, I mean, no issues asking that. It's a tough question. I don't have all the answers. We talked just briefly about that, about how like the funnel is really hard to get through. Even if you're like a senior, right? You're a senior down in the green window, it can be very challenging to get a job right now. I have to go find it, but I think on a YouTube channel, I think Theo3 or something like that. He's a software engineer. I think he used to work at Twitch, and he made a really great video about how hiring from 2020 to 2022 was a certain way. You throw everything in the resume grinder, and then you just compare offers essentially after getting really good at the star interview method. And then now it's very much just referral based. Okay, that's quick and smart. That's a really good thing to be doing. Starting a master's program, honestly, in this economy, I mean, like I started a master's program too because I was freelancing and I couldn't find perfect work for me. And it just so happened things lucked out, and now I'm doing both at once. But um, I think that's a good approach to go down. I would very much encourage you to go to like meetups or anything like that. So meetup.org. I'm in the Pacific Northwest. It's very, and I guess it's already like a tech heavy area, but it's very flush with people just meeting up to chat about the industry. And there's a lot of tools that do conferences here. So that would be a good approach since we've transitioned more to a referral based, I guess, job program, like getting hired. Did that help? I'm sorry if that's not perfect for you. I'm trying to think of anything else I can think of. I would say for the 100 applicants within an hour of being posted, it's anecdotal evidence, but I've talked to people who I trust and like a lot. Uh, it genuinely is like 99.5% of applicants are just not totally unsuitable for the work. Like not you're directionally there, and maybe you're feeling a little bit off because you don't have experience already. I'm talking about like people who are just sending in like just basically nothing.
That's interesting. Iron asks, what percent of data would you say is generated ethically? And Iron, by the way, there's no such thing as too many questions. These are great thoughtful.
I just don't know the answer to that. That would be a tough one. I would say that one thing that I think gets talked about during less stressful seasons than we're in right now is like how well we're doing with our compliance to information. But when you're in a bigger organization, from my experience in bigger organizations and honestly all organizations, everyone like when you bring up that it's like, I don't know about generation, but maintenance, like owning the data, who can see it, when they can see it, how often they can see it, at what level of granularity, people all care because it's a super, cover your ass thing. So yeah.
Interesting. Um, I'll ask, what's the favorite part of your job in your day-to-day job? Like, what do you enjoy doing the most?
Oh man, so I really like I feel very competitive with myself when I'm working on like building a dashboard in an ecosystem I don't know very well. So right now I'm a consultant and I'm with a new vendor, or I guess I'm the vendor to a client. Uh, and so I'm working in an environment where I don't know the data architecture. I didn't build it and I didn't document it early on or anything like that. I'm a consultant, so I need to come in and kind of start putting things out there that work well and match what else is out there. I really like trying to get that right. So, sitting there and going through each of the permutations and then knowing that I have like a really good answer for somebody for something that they don't know how to get themselves, but I figured it out and I can give it to you and I can make it look good. That feels awesome. You feel like you're really delivering something that like is unique to your ability to get that out the door.
Yukeen asks, you mentioned earlier that having a data science background is a good pathway to becoming a project manager or director. Is that a necessary skill you see a lot of directors having, or more of a good to have that increases your chances?
Let's see. So I think maybe what I meant here, I probably misspoke here. I think that so when you're looking at like a data analyst, right? That's kind of what I'd consider like how you got into the field, right? So it's like maybe you were like a healthcare general admin or something, and then you got really good at the reports, and they turned you into a data analyst because they need you to just focus on that. Um, and then maybe you went and got your master's, you did really good at that, and then you became a data scientist or something, right? I don't think that necessarily says that you're going to be a great director. I think what it does say is that directors manage, the way that directors, from my experience, manage like all of the resources that they have under them for whatever initiative that they're running, is they really rely on like their daily, weekly, monthly, and quarterly business reviews from each of the teams that they're working with. And so, like, if you're able to spot issues with that data, or you're able to ask better questions after looking at the data, first, it means you raised a good team, so good job, because you're getting good, insights or questions from the data. But two, you really don't want to go down a track where you're looking at information and it's all wrong, but you have no way to look at that or tell that it's wrong, and you can't dig into it at all. You just have to trust it. Being able to check on something is really good. So I think that it's not necessary, but I think it's a good place for you to be if you want to go and become a PM or a director.
Right, last few questions here. Iron asks, does data give you more peace or anxiety about the world and how the people in it manifest as numbers?
Oh man, I've gone down the rabbit hole of like trying to, people, I don't know if you guys ever try to like look at information online and like see like, oh, build your life like an RPG. I love World of Warcraft. My guy, I'm my World of Warcraft character. I'll build all the numbers for myself. That really stresses me out, and it's just I honestly think it's a waste of time to do stuff like that. So when it comes to people being boiled down to like numbers, I don't particularly like that. I think that it's always great when information is available to you as soon as you think of a good reason to use it, but I think you shouldn't just be collecting, storing, and then presenting information without any clear reason to use it. I mean, it's honestly a huge waste of money too, just because it's so insanely expensive to store it all.
Red Image asks, is business analyst a good stepping stone into moving into the strategy side of things? I really like the decision making side of things, but not so much putting together reports and visualizations. I feel pigeonholed into financial scroll up. What was it? Financial planning and analysis.
Lol.
Roles lol. Oh, he said it right there. I'm sorry.
No, 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 you're good. You're good. I got it. Um, thanks for reading out every question, by the way. It's really nice of you to do. Yeah, it's a great stepping stone. Business analyst is the person that gets brought into all of the meetings where you're doing the business reviews, and so the director, it's like I found success at Amazon because a couple directors put me in their back pocket because I was pretty good at finding ways of in plain English stating important things, and so they would bring me in because they would state it, and then if any questions popped up, they're not idiots. I'm not trying to say that they knew what was going on and they were in the weeds too, but I was able to more directly talk to it. So it's a really great place to go because those directors are the ones deciding on the strategy, and so the closer you are to them, the closer you learn their role, the more likely you're going to get their role, right? When they move up.
I think that relates to Sheik's questions too. You mentioned hiring being highly referral dependent right now. How would you go about building a network that you can rely on whilst currently not being in school or employed?
Oh yeah, totally. Uh, okay, so this can go a couple ways depending on what skill set you have right now. If you're just getting started, um, I encourage you to get good at these technical skills and then learn to offer these technical skills to people um, for your continued growth. And then hopefully that will help you out as far as building a network because you get to work with people or work on projects or whatever. Um, I also highly recommend just go search on Meetup. Their search tool is not that good, but you can find a lot of really good meetups probably in your area around this topic. And there's going to be a lot of really smart people. And if people want to go and talk about this kind of stuff, 9 times out of 10, they would love to teach someone too. At least not like one-on-one education forever, but some tidbits there are directionally what you should be doing.
All right. I think we will wrap this up then. Last question then. You've already answered this kind of in a few different parts of this, but in kind of one big thing, if you are uh someone who maybe doesn't have a lot of schooling yet or whatever, but is looking to go into data science or data business analyst, what would you be doing right now? And how would you be kind of working towards that goal?
Yeah, sure. So first, I would recognize that this grid exists and that we should not think about data science yet. Sorry, I'm being pedantic, but we should focus on data analyst right now. And so if you're not going to school for it specifically, or you're not doing, something very specific that helps you get there, what I would really recommend you doing is thinking about that data analyst role, how you're going to get that. The best way to do that in my head is get an admin job in an industry you like. Like I used healthcare a lot of times because it's kind of like one of the birthplaces of this industry, is become like a healthcare administrator, sit really close to the managers and your skip levels and your directors and push data and be good at that. And then they'll bring you in, hopefully, and then you'll get the job that way. I wouldn't spend a ton of time just getting certifications and then applying to jobs with those certifications. They're nice to have as like capstones for you having good experience and then saying, yes, I did actually know that tool. But I don't think they're useful to replace like a degree or work experience.
Awesome. Thank you so much, David. I really appreciate you doing this, and that's about all we have.
Sure. Oh, can I, for quick and smart, I just don't want to leave somebody, hanging here.
Go
Sorry, I'm
ahead.
just
Go ahead.
using health administrator as like an example. It could be any industry that, hopefully you can get I guess like a desk job in where you're working with people, all of those industries will have like a KPI that needs to be met, and somebody's always looking at those KPIs. So if you're somebody who's aware of that and figures out who's looking at the KPIs and who's making them, you can find a way, hoping you have a good manager who supports you in this, find a way of inserting yourself and learning those skills. So it doesn't have to be a health administrator, but it's just one approach. And I know the market is awful right now, so any job is really hard to get. But traditionally, that's been ways that people have gotten a data analyst job and then moved into the other roles.